This is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We're here on PlayStation 5 Pro. The game is indeed enhanced. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. That's right, it's Indiana Jones, PlayStation 5 Pro Enhanced. We're going to get some little bump ups here. It takes it just a step above what we had with the Series X, and the results are absolutely splendid. This is a very well-loved, well-put-together, well-crafted Indiana Jones adventure that will allow you to basically immerse yourself with the character, throwing you into the first-person perspective, and allowing you to go on what is one epic and fun adventure, where you get to, like I said, literally become Indiana Jones. Now, it might be a little weird to show off the opening of the game when doing something that is a review. Obviously, I've played this on the Series X. It wasn't exclusive to that platform before Xbox gave up. And now you can enjoy the best, the pristine, the updated and bug-fixed version on PlayStation, which is fantastic for those that were kind of waiting just a small little bit of time in order to enjoy a better version of this game. So yeah, from a technical standpoint, which we'll get to in a bit, it is really quite beautiful. It looks fantastic. But the reason I show the beginning of the game is because if you are a fan of Indiana Jones, if you are familiar with the movies, you are immersed with the universe, this is so cool. Like, I could show you some of the open world areas where you're in like a desert, Egypt. I could show you a kind of swampy area where you're sort of going along rivers in I think it's a kayak or a boat or maybe it's a motorboat. Anyways, you get what I mean. I could show you those areas. I could show you like linear action-packed areas and setups and everything like that. But nothing quite hits as well as this opening in regards to showcasing, talking about this game. Because this is a recreation of, well, basically a very classic scene or moment from Indiana Jones. I think if you're familiar with the films, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll know exactly what this moment is. If you're not, you'll get to see some really cool stuff that showcases the spirit and the design and just what Indiana Jones is as a character. And this opening just is so perfect from that perspective because it is, I don't even know, I think a little bit better than Uncanny just because it really does recreate a very, very cool part of Indiana Jones from the movie to a game, and that in itself is so cool. And from a technical standpoint, it's beautiful. From a story standpoint, it's really fascinating. So this is set between the adventures of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade. It's 1937. Sinister forces are scouring the globe looking for an ancient power connected to this great circle. And there's only one person that can stop them. The great archaeologist, Indiana Jones. Ba ba bum ba. So you will step literally first person into the shoes of this character, and you will be attempting to stop these creepy forces from gathering power and collecting what is essentially a series of special tablets. I'm not going to dive in to spoil anything, because I'm assuming a lot of people that are playing this on PlayStation will be, experiencing it for the first time, which I think is great. And, again, this is like a prelude. I said 30, it takes place in 37. Anyways, this is a prelude thing. Yeah, so you as a character are trying to figure out what exactly the Great Circle is, what this ancient power is, where are these tablets, what's happening, what does it all mean. You're joined by some interesting characters that are friendly, maybe a little gray area to Indiana Jones, and you will be making your way across these regions on what is a very interesting and personal adventure that continues basically building upon this character. So Indiana Jones, you'll see he's having some issues at the home front. He needs an adventure. He needs something to be doing. There's some friendly faces from the films that pop up, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's so nice. And then, like Doc Ock. And then you kind of go into it. Did you know there's, area you can actually walk around into, which is kind of neat? Like, you can actually, walk around in the spot. There's not really much you could do here, but it's just sort of neat, because, I didn't really ever look at this, and I always just kind of ignore it, but, it's just kind of cool that there's interactive bits like this in the world, too. And that's where I'm kind of getting the element of this extends the world of an Indiana Jones adventure, which I think is fantastic. You really do feel, like I said, immersed in the character, and you do get to understand, his backstory. How did he get to this point? Backstory as in, the setup behind why he's doing this adventure, what exactly he's missing in life. And I think that is all so very well done, so very well detailed. So from a technical standpoint, again, finally going back to that, This is a native 4K resolution, 60 FPS, and I do mean native 4K, at 60 FPS, with HDR support, with ray tracing, global illuminated ray tracing, so the lighting and everything like that, which just adds a really nice soft-toned lighting. And they've actually put some improvements further with the ray tracing here, so it does take things a little bit further from what we had with the Xbox side of things, like I mentioned. So there's illumination improvements, shadow improvements, and ambient occlusion improvements. So the results here are, you know, it's not like, it is a step up. Like, it is a big step up in terms of like fidelity. There is an extra bump up, and the lighting stuff is slightly improved. It's not like, you know, crazy, but it is a nice, like, you can see the fidelity when you're on the nice big screen, and it looks really good, and it's quite visually impressive. Mostly, I'm very happy with this upgrade. Like, it looks really nice, and it feels great on the PlayStation 5 controller. But yeah, the PlayStation 5 Pro is really delivering for this one, which is kind of what you expect and sort of want. So the game can be played in a couple different ways in terms of how you interact and approach it. So it's very cinematic driven in this opening, which allows me to more casually talk, and again, it also recreates the scene from the movie, which is super cool. But yeah, basically, you are moving through these scenes. Sometimes you're fighting in the first person, sometimes you're interacting with things. There's a sequence where you're like in a plane, or sometimes you're in a boat like I mentioned, or sometimes you're using a whip. But you can choose how intensive the game is. There's different difficulty options. There's different puzzle difficulty options. There's how intensive you want puzzles to be, how easygoing you want puzzles to be. And that in itself is really quite cool, that they give you these options in order to change how you approach the game so that this game is accessible for everyone. And they've also, like I said, fixed a lot of things. The combat's a little easier going now. The where you're going is a little bit easier going. Some of the little bugs and stuff have been cleaned up nicely for this, and then also some of the interactive points have been improved a lot. Now, I also want to mention, as soon as we get to like a little bit of a better lit area, that this game does have some different options in how you actually approach the visuals. So we talked about the technical details, and we see the difficulty here for different things, like how intensive, like I was mentioning, for difficulty and all that. And then HUD settings, and then there's like some outfits you could have too, depending on like what version you have, a bullwhip and that. But mostly for video is what I wanted to mention is we've got the widescreen here, but a lot of people really prefer the cinematic look. So the cinematic look is a lot more true to what you would see on film. You know, you've got the different aspect ratio as opposed to like filling your screen. Now, personally, when I play a video game, I like to play a video game as if it is a video game, you know, fills the screen, blah, blah, blah. But for those that want something that more properly represents, say, a situation where you are playing this as if it is literally one of the movies, then the widescreen option will be what you will want to play. It's just, again, for me, it's like, yes, you get more screen, yes, it's wider, but it's just sort of like the black bars and stuff. It's like when I play a video game, I want the full screen immersion, whereas if I'm watching a movie, I want to see as much of the scene as possible. So that's where I'm kind of like different mediums for different things, and I get that they want to, you know, mix mediums these days and do all kinds of stuff, and I'm all for it. But yeah, I do prefer to do the widescrreen, but it's totally up to you and how you want to go about it. Motion blur, your film grain impact, and then there's like color filter options and like high contrast modes, and then lots of accessibility choices too, subtitles, all that stuff. Pretty in-depth, honestly, as far as, you know, accessibility options for when going to play this game, which I think is great. But there you go, now we're filling the full screen again. Like I said, just for a video game, though, I just think it's more proper to take up my whole TV, but, you know, the choice is up to you, and I'm just letting you know that this sort of stuff exists and what it has to offer. So they take you to some pretty interesting scenes in this game. Like, you get to go to some really interesting places, like the Vatican. Some of it feels a little bit like busy work. It's sort of hilarious because when I play this game, what it really makes me want is another really good Indiana Jones movie. Which is hilarious, because like a lot of people, lots of people love this game. And it's great and all. Yeah, it's definitely great, but I definitely do have some issues with some elements of it where it's sort of like, you know, yeah, it's all great and fun, but some of the open world stuff feels like busy work. There's lots of weird side things, but I feel like this game's really personally cooking when cooking. I can't believe we're using the terminology, but anyways, basically when you are watching like cinematics or doing more linear parts of the game, there is something about those moments that to me are really, really quite interesting and more exciting and more crazy, like the emotion of it. Especially Indy kind of interacts with this reporter later on in the game, investigative journalist, I think would be a better terminology. And seeing those two kind of like interact with each other is really, really quite neat. Oh, and there's a streamer mode too if you do streaming stuff. I thought I should mention that as well.
Give me the whip.
Yeah, it's just the way they do it is so interesting, how those two characters interact, like Indy and her, because she's actually a really well done, maybe a little bit of a love interest, maybe not, and just the way they handle that character and her progression over the story, I think is really well done, and I like the interactions between them. And it's weird because like when this game is doing like cinematic bits and stuff like that and story bits, I'm just like, oh, it makes me want to crave a good Indiana Jones movie. And I love how this one feels in regards to like imitating that style of it. You know, like I do think as far as voice, as far as delivering something that feels on brand with Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford's performance, Troy Baker does an absolutely excellent job of emulating the character, the sounds, the style of it. A little bit of the Baker comes through, I would say, at times, but for the most part, you do feel pretty immersed, and your mind just kind of is like, yeah, it's Indy as it should be. It is interesting because essentially this fits in nicely within Indiana Jones, and it can be something that is more than just an adventure that's just a video game. It feels like something that could, if we want it to, exist fine within the realms of the movies. Like, this could be a canon experience. That would be totally fine, and it would fit. And it would feel natural, and it would feel like something people would be happy about having, would be that integration. So I think they've done a really, really genuinely great job basically making that interaction happening, getting like a performance in this game that feels true to the character. And if they do more of these, which I am hoping they do, I think they could continue to deliver adventures that expand the movies in a proper way and don't leave us like feeling totally disappointed. And you know, I do think, like I said, they deliver on a lot of stuff, but some of the open world stuff in this just really felt unneeded. I know people love open world in video games these days, everything's got to be open world, but like sometimes you're literally walking across the desert collecting tablets. Sometimes you're, you know, just walking from one point to another point, and it's just kind of like, you know, what is the point of this? And I think I would have preferred something that was a bit more specific to the point, instead of having some of those moments where I'm just like wandering around the desert being like, seriously, what is going on? Why is this happening? You know, what's the problem here? And that to me was a bit of an issue. I'm sure other people aren't as bothered by that as I am, but yeah, some of the open world stuff was just kind of bland for me, and I didn't love it. And some of the stealth didn't work the best, and some of the combat was a little annoying. But as I mentioned, since I've played it, and this is the fun part of like reviewing and covering games in the modern era, is like I covered something, and then like literally a month or so later, they've fixed problems I've had, and people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And I'll be like, "Well, you know, at launch this was a problem, and that was a problem," and then they fix it, or you know, it releases on Xbox, and then just a few months later it's on PlayStation, and all of a sudden you're getting a full, complete version of the game that's not having any kinds of like problems or issues like I was having, and you're just sitting there being like, really? And yeah, that's just kind of the state of things. But no, seriously, if you are a fan of the Indiana Jones films, you will love this experience. You will absolutely have a great time with it. You'll find the character to be on par with what you expect as an Indiana Jones adventure. You will probably enjoy some of the frantic craziness going on. You will kind of be like, oh, I have to be creative with the environment, pick up items and hit guys, but, you know, a lot of the time just be kind of stealthy and smart, and you know, be Indiana Jones. Use your whip, a little bit less guns. The villain is a lot of fun in this one too. The enemy foes, it feels like nostalgic in terms of the big bad guys that you got to deal with, and that's all a lot of fun. And the puzzles, I don't think the puzzles were. I don't remember any of the puzzles being too annoying. They all felt pretty logical or pretty easy to solve as you continue to play it. Yeah, I don't really recall having too many issues. There was a couple where I was like, I had to take a little bit to figure them out, but for the most part, they were all pretty straightforward. Again, there's lots of assists if you need them for puzzles. And then, of course, if you love the gameplay so much and you want to indulge in the more open world stuff, you can. There's extra little bits of adventure you can have. There's extra little things you can see and do. And there's like little extra moments. And some of them are actually pretty filled out. I went on this one mission, which, again, I'm never really sure if it's like, I don't think it's a main mission, but you meet this lady in the jungle, the swamps. And again, I'm not trying to spoil anything. It's so nice to see Brody back in this. Seriously, I love some of these characters so much. And then you like interact with this lady who was like a student of Indiana Jones, and then I was like, it was lengthy. It was like a full little side story thing, but I'm never sure if I needed to do that or if it was just extra. And I think I would say some of the side stuff is well crafted. Some of the stuff's a little fetch questy, but yeah, I don't know. There's definitely some interesting things you can do, some interesting things you can see. This is definitely something that I would say is probably a must-play for fans of Indiana Jones. Like, if you like the movies, you're craving an adventure, you weren't necessarily happy, maybe, with recent stuff, or maybe you were, whatever, it is what it is. But I think this is a perfect Indiana Jones adventure for those that, like, want to have more Indiana Jones. Like, if you want to have more with the character, visit more places, do more stuff. This is a very immersive, well-detailed, well-designed, and exciting universe that you can dive into and explore and see all kinds of cool things. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot to explore and engage with. And you can have some crazy times in it as you're, like, fighting along or enjoying Indiana Jones interacting with certain characters, or the quirk of the action, or the light interaction. It is a little, I guess I did mention this, it is a little jarring, though, where it, like, goes from first person to third person. I did find that kind of a little annoying, because you're, like, for instance, sometimes you would be starting a swing in first person, then moving to third person, and then ending your swing in first person. So it'd be, like, first, third, first. And it would just be, like, a little hard to coordinate, like, what I'm doing sometimes because of the change in motion between going from first to third to first. It was a little jarring. But, yeah, I think for the most part, you're maybe not going to be too bothered by that. But for me, I was just like, you know, you're trying to escape guys, and then you're basically, like, kind of awkwardly messing up your swings, and you're just like, what's going on in this? But no, I do think, outside of stuff like that, I'm just trying to remember, weren't you over there? Like, behind, how did you get here so fast? Maybe there's like a shortcut I don't know about. Good for you, Brody, moving fast. Anyways, mostly the big thing to take away is that I think you will genuinely enjoy this if you've been wanting an Indiana Jones adventure for a while. If you've been craving something new, something exciting that you haven't seen before. If you're wanting to go on a new adventure with Indiana Jones, the character, I think you will genuinely be floored by what this has to offer. And I think you will find this to be a delightful journey. Using the whip, meeting the characters, and exploring something that is genuinely exciting and filled to the brim with surprises and twists and turns. I feel like I'm not listening properly to what they're talking about here. I'm just mostly trying to talk about my own thing and, what's going on in the backdrop there. I'm not actually trying to puzzle solve, but Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, PlayStation 5 Pro Enhanced, an excellent offering.
Not quite.
Well, what's missing?